All right, let's flip the lights low. They think power lives in loud words, in promises, in explanations. Funny, isn't it? Because the deepest wounds and the deepest bonds are created in silence. Tonight, I'm not here to teach you what to say. I'm here to show you how to undo a man without opening your mouth at all. A look that stays 1 second longer. A pause that makes his thoughts race. A presence that crawls straight past his ego, into his heart, and quietly locks the door. No tricks, no begging, no noise. Just psychology, energy, and the kind of silence that makes a man feel seen, chosen, and slightly terrified of losing you. Smile. This is where the magic starts. They taught you that power comes from speaking first. Speaking louder, explaining yourself before anyone doubts you. Cute lie. Silence is where the real damage happens. Silence is not empty. Silence is loaded. It watches. It listens. It lets the other person panic while you stay perfectly still. When you stop filling the air with words, something strange happens inside a man's mind. His thoughts get louder. His insecurities wake up. His imagination starts doing the work you used to do for him. And imagination is far more persuasive than logic. See, when you speak too much, you guide him. When you stay silent, you let him guide himself straight into emotional attachment. Silence tells him you're not chasing. Silence tells him you're not asking for permission to exist. Silence says you're comfortable standing alone, and nothing unsettles a man more than a woman who doesn't need noise to be noticed. He leans in, not because you pulled him, but because he's afraid of missing something. Silence isn't cold. It's controlled warmth. It's choosing when to respond instead of reacting. It's letting a message sit unanswered long enough for him to replay every word he sent. It's holding eye contact without rushing to soften it. It's listening without interrupting, because people reveal their true selves when they think you're not competing for the spotlight. Silence gives him space to project, and whatever he projects, he starts to protect. Words can be argued with. Silence can't. Silence doesn't defend itself. It doesn't explain. It doesn't chase approval. And because of that, it becomes magnetic. He starts wondering what you're thinking. Not knowing drives him deeper than any compliment ever could. Mystery is born the moment you stop over-explaining. Attraction grows in the gap between what he knows and what he feels. Silence also communicates boundaries without confrontation. You don't need to announce standards when your calm withdrawal already does the job. When something doesn't align, you don't fight, you don't beg, you simply remove access, and suddenly he feels the loss before you ever explain it. Silence teaches faster than lectures. It trains respect without force. A man listens differently to silence. He hears intention in it, confidence in it, even danger in it. Silence makes him aware of his own behavior because you're not distracting him with reactions. You're holding a mirror, and most people don't like what they see when the noise stops. That discomfort bonds him to you, because emotions experienced around someone tend to attach to that person, whether they're pleasant or intense. Silence seduces because it refuses to compete. It doesn't rush to be chosen. It allows him to choose again and again without realizing he's already invested. Every time he fills the quiet with effort, with questions, with vulnerability, he steps closer. Every time you don't interrupt that process, you let him feel like the decision is his. That illusion is powerful. People protect what they believe they chose freely. Silence doesn't mean absence. It means precision. It means knowing that the right pause can say more than 1,000 perfect sentences. It means trusting that your presence alone is enough to shift the room. And when he finally realizes that the silence wasn't emptiness, but intention, when he understands that the calm wasn't weakness, but control, when it hits him that you never needed to convince him of anything, only allowed him to convince himself, that's when the silence stops being quiet and starts echoing in his mind long after you're gone, replaying moments, pauses, looks, and the feeling that something important slipped past him while he was busy trying to figure you out, and that feeling stays, grows, tightens, because silence doesn't end. It just changes shape and settles deeper where words can't reach, where attachment is born without permission, where he starts missing you before you've even left, wondering what you're thinking right now, wondering if he should speak first, wondering if breaking the silence would bring you closer or push you further away. And that uncertainty becomes the connection, the hook, the quiet gravity pulling him in without a single word ever being said. Because silence doesn't ask, it allows. And what it allows is far more dangerous than anything you could ever say. Presence isn't about entering a room loudly. That's amateur hour. Real presence arrives quietly and still manages to rearrange the air. You don't announce it. You don't decorate it with explanations. You just are. And that unsettles people, especially a man who's used to being the strongest signal in the room. Because when you're fully present, you're not seeking validation. You're not scanning faces for approval. You're not performing. You're grounded, relaxed, observant, and completely unavailable to nonsense. Presence starts in the body before it ever reaches the mind. How you stand, how you sit, how comfortable you are taking up space without apologizing for it. Most people fidget because they're negotiating with the moment, unsure if they deserve to be there. Presence doesn't negotiate, it occupies. When you move slowly, when your gestures are intentional, when you don't rush to fill gaps, people assume confidence. They assume depth. They assume there's something worth paying attention to, even if they can't explain why. A man feels presence before he understands it. His nervous system reacts before his logic catches up. He notices how calm you are, how unbothered, how you don't mirror his anxiety or chase his reactions. That calm becomes a contrast to the noise in his own head. Suddenly, being around you feels like relief, and humans bond to relief very quickly. Presence becomes a place he wants to return to, not because of what you give him, but because of how he feels when you're near. Presence means listening without preparing a response. It means letting silence breathe instead of rushing to rescue it. When he speaks and you're fully there, not distracted, not trying to impress, not trying to steer the conversation, he feels seen in a way that's rare. Most people listen to reply. Presence listens to understand. That difference is subtle, but it lands deep. He opens more. He reveals more. And the more he reveals, the more emotionally invested he becomes. There's also restraint in presence. You don't react to everything. You don't reward every attempt to get a rise out of you. You choose what deserves your energy. That selectiveness communicates value without ever stating it. When your attention isn't easily won, it becomes meaningful. A man starts adjusting himself around you, not because you demanded it, but because he senses that careless behavior won't be met with engagement. Presence sets the tone without confrontation. Energy doesn't lie. You can say all the right words and still feel hollow. Presence has weight. It's the difference between being physically there and emotionally anchored. When you're present, your eyes don't dart. Your mind doesn't wander. You're not half in the moment and half somewhere else. That wholeness is intoxicating. It makes interactions feel real, not transactional, and real moments leave marks. Presence also knows when to withdraw. You don't cling. You don't linger where you're not valued. When you leave cleanly, without drama, without speeches. That absence hits harder because it contrasts with the fullness you brought before. He notices the shift. He feels the missing energy. And suddenly, the room feels louder, emptier, less balanced. A man may forget compliments. He may forget conversations. But he won't forget how grounded he felt around you. He won't forget the way time slowed when you were focused, the way his thoughts quieted when you listened, the way your calm made him more aware of his own chaos. Presence rewires associations. You become linked to peace, to clarity, to intensity without noise. That's why presence is dangerous. It doesn't chase. It doesn't convince. It doesn't beg to be chosen. It simply exists at a frequency that forces others to tune themselves or fall out of range. And when a man realizes that your presence isn't something he can control, only experience when it's offered, he starts valuing it more than attention, more than words, more than reassurance. Because presence isn't given freely, it's felt when allowed, and once he's felt it, once his nervous system recognizes it, he starts seeking it without knowing how to ask, replaying moments, craving the stillness, the focus, the way everything felt sharper and calmer at the same time, wondering how something so quiet managed to take up so much space, wondering what it would take to feel that way again, wondering if you're still carrying that same calm somewhere else right now, fully present, fully centered, completely untouched by his uncertainty while he sits with the echo of your energy still hanging in the air, heavy, undeniable, unfinished. Eye contact is a confrontation disguised as connection. It's not polite. It's not casual. It's invasive in the most intimate way. When you hold a man's gaze without flinching, without rushing to soften it, without smiling to make him comfortable, you're stepping straight past his words and into the place he hides his reactions. Most people glance, check, escape. They look away to stay safe. Holding eye contact says you're not afraid of what you might find in him or what he might find in you. That alone changes the balance. A man is used to controlling the pace with speech, jokes, explanations. Eye contact takes that control away. It slows everything down. It forces awareness. Suddenly, he's aware of his posture, his breathing, his thoughts. He wonders what you're reading. He wonders what you already know. When you don't rush to fill the space with reassurance, his mind does it for you. He starts assigning meaning to the silence between blinks, to the stillness in your face, to the calm refusal to look away. Pauses work the same way. A pause after he speaks is never empty. It's pressure. It gives weight to his words. It makes him question whether he said too much or not enough. When you pause instead of reacting instantly, you shift the power. Instant reactions are predictable. Pauses are unsettling. They suggest choice. They suggest control. You're not being pulled by the moment. You're shaping it. Eye contact combined with a pause is a psychological lever. You listen. You hold his gaze. You wait. And in that waiting, he fills the silence with interpretation. He may feel exposed. He may feel seen. He may feel challenged. Whatever he feels, his nervous system ties that intensity to you. Strong emotions create memory. Memory creates attachment. Most people overuse eye contact nervously, darting in and out. That reads as need. Controlled eye contact reads as certainty. You look when it matters. You look when you want to anchor a moment. And when you look away first, you do it slowly, deliberately, as if you've already taken what you needed. That reversal flips the script. He feels the loss of connection before he realizes it happened. Pauses also signal that you're not seeking approval. You're not rushing to prove you're interesting or kind or agreeable. You allow silence to exist because you're comfortable inside it. Comfort in silence is rare. It makes people lean in emotionally because they sense depth. They sense there's more beneath the surface. And humans are wired to explore what feels layered. When he shares something personal and you pause before responding, he feels the weight of being truly heard, not rushed, not dismissed. That pause tells him his words landed somewhere real. It encourages him to go deeper. The more he reveals, the more invested he becomes. Vulnerability isn't created by talking. It's created by being held in attention. Eye contact during vulnerability intensifies everything. It tells him you're not afraid of his truth. You're not overwhelmed. You're steady. That steadiness becomes safety, and safety is addictive. Men don't attach to chaos. They attach to the place where they can drop their armor without being judged. Pauses can also correct behavior without confrontation. When he crosses a line and you respond with silence and a steady look instead of anger or explanation, he feels the shift immediately. His body understands before his mind does. Something changed. Access was interrupted. Silence becomes feedback. Eye contact becomes a boundary. These small moments stack. A look held a second longer. A response delayed just enough. A silence that isn't awkward, just intentional. Over time, he associates you with intensity, depth, and awareness. He starts measuring his own words around you. He becomes more present, more careful, more invested. And when he's alone later, it's not what you said that replays in his mind. It's the way you looked at him when he spoke. The pause that followed. The feeling that something important was happening beneath the surface. He tries to reconstruct it, to understand it, to regain that moment of connection. He wonders what you were thinking in that silence. He wonders if you saw through him. He wonders if you'll look at him that way again. And that wondering keeps him tied to you, because eye contact and pauses don't end when the moment passes. They linger as unanswered questions, unfinished signals, quiet echoes that stay active in his mind, looping, tightening, pulling him back into that suspended space where time slowed. Words failed, and everything meaningful happened without a single thing needing to be said. An emotional imprint is what remains when everything else fades. Not what you gave. Not what you promised. What stayed after you left. Most people try to be remembered by effort, by generosity, by constant availability. That's noise. Imprints are created through contrast, through moments that feel different from the rest of his life, through emotions that don't resolve cleanly. A man forgets routine quickly, but he remembers disruption. He remembers the moment something shifted inside him without warning. An emotional imprint happens when his internal state changes in your presence. Calm replaces chaos. Focus replaces distraction. Or intensity replaces numbness. Whatever the shift is, his nervous system records it. And the mind always returns to places where it felt something real. You don't create an imprint by trying to be unforgettable. You create it by being specific, by showing up the same way every time, grounded, observant, selective. Consistency isn't boring when it's rare. When he knows what your presence feels like, when your reactions are measured instead of explosive, when your attention isn't handed out randomly, you become a reference point. Everything else starts to feel off, balanced by comparison. Emotional imprints deepen when you don't resolve everything. You don't rush closure. You don't tie moments into neat emotional bows. You let conversations end slightly open. You let feelings linger without labeling them. The mind hates unfinished loops. It revisits them, replays them, tries to complete them, and every replay strengthens the imprint. Another mistake people make is over-explaining intentions. That kills mystery. Emotional imprints thrive on subtlety, on actions that speak quietly but land loudly. You don't need to say you care if your presence already communicates it. You don't need to declare value if your boundaries demonstrate it. When words and energy align without excess, the experience feels authentic, and authenticity cuts deeper than performance. An imprint is also formed by how you handle exits. Dramatic goodbyes create relief once they're over. Clean exits create absence. When you leave without bitterness, without speeches, without chasing reassurance, he's left alone with the contrast between when you were there and when you're not. That gap is where longing forms. Emotion bonds to whoever was present when it occurred. If he felt understood with you, he associates that understanding with you. If he felt challenged, awakened, steady, or seen, those emotions don't disappear when you do. They look for you. That's why people miss individuals who didn't necessarily give the most, but made them feel the most aware. An emotional imprint doesn't scream. It whispers later. It shows up when he's with someone else and something feels dull. It appears when he remembers a look, a pause, a moment of calm that doesn't repeat itself easily. He may not even attach your name to it immediately. He just knows something is missing. You don't reinforce an imprint by chasing. Chasing overwrites it. You reinforce it by staying aligned, by not changing your rhythm to keep his attention, by letting the imprint do its work without interference. Attachment grows best when it feels self-generated, when he believes the pull is coming from inside him, not from anything you're doing now. People try to control outcomes. Imprints don't come from control. They come from resonance, from being so centered in who you are that others feel it without instruction. When your behavior stays steady regardless of his fluctuations, you become emotionally solid ground. That solidity is rare. Rare things are protected. Over time, he starts measuring emotional experiences against the imprint you left. Conversations feel thinner. Connections feel rushed. Even pleasure feels incomplete without the depth he felt around you. He might not understand why. He might rationalize it away, but the nervous system remembers. And that's the quiet power of an emotional imprint. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't announce itself. It waits. It resurfaces when defenses are down. It shows up in moments of silence, in pauses between thoughts, in the subtle sense that something important once happened and never fully ended. Because emotional imprints don't fade with time. They embed, they integrate, they become part of how someone feels connection afterward, influencing choices, standards, desires, long after you stopped trying to leave any mark at all.